Hello and welcome back inside the Parc Fermé for podcast 850. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now!
AKA Negative Camber. You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly what I need you to do. Tonight, for your kind consideration, we're going to cover what Formula One news there was. Not all of it, but the stuff that we want to talk about. But before doing that, of course, you know what I have to do. I have to introduce my co-host tonight. That means I've got to go all the way to the right coast of America, Nessa, in her nation's capital, where she plies her skills as a master statistician and basically runs the American government from her home office, remotely. You know her, you love her, the lovely, the redoubtable Grace! Grace, how you doing?
That's a pretty tall order.
It is.
Running the entire government.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big place.
It is a big deal. Yeah, it's the biggest employer in the world.
I'd believe it.
Yeah,
it's
it is. Big. I was thinking about saying that we made you vice president in charge of the weather.
Oof.
You know,
this is if this is the best I could do. Gosh,
yeah,
it's terrible.
It's been rainy,
there.
Muggy, humid here.
It's so.
Yeah. But I would like to see pictures of you like flying the airplane and turning the chemtrails on, and you know.
If I could fly it like the people that like fly them through hurricanes, that would be cool.
Going into the eye of the hurricane, that would be
exactly. Cool. That would be pretty
that would
sweet.
be cool. That would be cool. There was some Formula One news this week, Grace.
What?
I know.
There was?
We're supposed to be on summer holiday, and yet the amazing Formula One press, the awesome people they are, they managed to get some quotes, some interviews. I mean, they just keep going.
They just can't take a vacation. Take a vacation.
They can't.
It's okay.
Yeah, they can't take it. Well, yeah, they can't.
We'll fill it with something else. It's fine.
Yeah, we could fill it with something else. I got chewed out the last time on our YouTube comment for talking about music in the last podcast. Yeah.
Okay, people. First of all, we are real people, and we've been doing this for a long time, and people have been listening for a long time, and it's community, it's conversation.
It is.
Well, hi, Ziggy. We're here to, get to know each other and spend some time with each other.
Right.
I don't know, people. I have never enjoyed just get to business. Like, again, if you want that, go to a news outlet. We're not a news outlet. We're your friends.
Yeah, we're your friends.
Yeah.
I go back to the whole notion in 2005. As we said, it should be like two friends having a beer at a pub talking about the sport they love, right? We've always said that.
This is like when people were like, Grace, that's not factual. Yeah, nah, you're right.
Yeah, whatever.
I was close.
Yeah, facts? Was I supposed to get those or were you getting them?
I don't know, right? I'm just talking off the top of my head. This is what happened. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I enjoyed the conversation. I think you should do it.
I did too. It's a shame that you and I were the only two that did, apparently.
Well, I don't think you can let one person sway your entire...
Yeah. Okay, so he's not a lover of music, doesn't want to talk about music. However, I did get a few notes from a few folks that do want me to do a podcast on music, so there you go.
More people that want you to do it than that one person
there you go. Than that one person.
Debbie Downer.
Who probably just had a bad day, a little grumpy, wanted just to tune in, hit play, and immediately, today, Ferrari announced that they just want to go right in the news. That's fine. I totally understand that's what you'd want. Not going to get it here.
I don't think that's how we've ever rolled. So
it's not.
I don't know. What are we on? 850? 879. That's not how we roll.
Right. Yeah, I've done, you add in downshifts. I've done over 900 podcasts, so and we've never done that. So there you go. Let's talk about some news before we offend anyone else, Grace. Let's start at the top. Now, I've been on a roll lately talking about McLaren, and well, quite honestly, why wouldn't you? Because they've been on form of late.
They've been great. I always like when we talk about McLaren and they're doing well.
I know.
Usually we're talking about McLaren and they're not doing well.
That's exactly why I haven't talked about Ferrari for the last half a year.
We have 4 weeks of the off season. I mean, we're at 3 now. Right. So talk about whatever you want. It's fine.
I did like McLaren's little video they had of Lando just hanging around an empty office, playing around with the vice and stuff like that. It was kind of funny.
Yeah,
Anyway, I don't think it was Lando in that costume. But anyway, all right. So we are not going to talk about McLaren. We're going to talk about my team.
Mm. Bum,
Yes.
bum, bum.
Yes.
No, it cannot be, Ricky.
Oh, and I got yelled at for doing this. They said it was too loud. Sorry about that.
Oh.
I turned the volume down on that. So hopefully that's not too loud. If it
Mm.
is, plug your ears. I'm just going to give you the whole buffet here so you can go. There you go. Those are all the ones I have. I've got them
like
out of the way.
I like that we have a whole range of screams. I
We
feel
do.
like that should be a contest, right? Name that
Should.
scream.
Yeah. Well, the first one was the Wilhelm, of course. That's the famous
Yes.
one. So we're going to talk about Ferrari. We're going to talk about now. I have, for ever since he's been a young lad in the junior series, called him Charles Leclerc, although he himself pronounces it Leclerc. And all the drivers, when they talk about him in the paddock, they call him Leclerc. So I think I'm going to call him Leclerc.
All right.
Can I do that? I think I will.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
Charles Leclerc. We're going to talk about his contract.
Yeah, but he says Leclerc, right?
I know I've heard him say Leclerc.
Well, there you go. I don't. It's always been confusing because I remember when he first started and we had this whole conversation.
I
I was
know.
like, Leclerc.
Leclerc.
Oh, Leclerc. Okay,
What
I
is
got it. I got it. And then like the first interview, somebody's like, Charles Leclerc. Leclerc. See, I saw now I can't undo it. And I was just like, oh God, people, you're killing me.
I know. And then, yeah, I remember because I got scolded for saying Leclerc in the early days. But I think I've heard him say his name, and there was like a video on YouTube where he pronounces his name as Leclerc, and I want to say it was kind of one of those Ricardo deals where
Yeah.
it's really Ricciardo, but and he just
gave
said,
up.
yeah, we just call it Ricardo because it's easier for people. And I wonder if Leclerc is just easier for people, but or Leclerc is easier for people, but
Or
it's
it's
really
like-
supposed to be Leclerc.
Yeah, or it's like Tara or Tara. I don't care.
Yeah,
Just-
what are you gonna do?
Whatever, I like Ricciardo. I think that's my favorite of
It
the
is.
possible pronunciations, so that's one I stick with. Well, I mean,
It
I'm never
is.
going to meet him, so it's fine.
I work with a lot of Belgian folk.
Yeah.
Boy, I tell you,
Some
you
names.
should hear me butcher those names. It's
Oh.
it's almost I bet I could get arrested in Belgium for the abuse I've
Wow.
foisted upon my Belgian colleagues. Crazy.
Mm,
Yeah, it's hard. I always ask them, so how do you pronounce that? No, really, just pronounce it, and then I just try to mimic it, and then there you go.
yeah. Well, yeah, or you listen to other people. I guess that same thing happens is that I think I know how to pronounce that name. And then I hear somebody else and I go, oh no. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
exactly it. I'm like, oh no, am I wrong? Are they right? And then I have no idea what's
I know.
happened in the meeting because I'm just obsessed over I really want to call this person by the right pronunciation of this name. And yeah, I have no idea what just happened.
Yeah, I mean, I try. I definitely want.
Yeah.
If it's Leclerc, I want to call him Leclerc. If
It's your
if
name. It's
that's-
important.
Yeah. I mean, people butcher my last name all the time, and it's a little, it's a little odd, but whatever. So anyway, Charles Leclerc's contract. Let's talk
So
about
that
So,
guy. Yeah.
that guy, the Monegasque. We'll just refer
Yes,
to him
right.
as the Monegasque. So no mystery here that his contract expires at the end of 2024 season. And while that's a year away, perhaps that's why there hasn't been much talk about a renewal of Leclerc's, contract or even Leclerc's name in silly season conversation. Just not a whole lot of talk about it because he's still got another year on it. On one hand, you'd have to understand why speculation that Aston Martin, Mercedes, Red Bull, they all might be interested in his services for 2025,
Oh yeah.
given the current form of Ferrari, right? Now, I say current form, but let's be honest with ourselves. on this.
Always form.
I'm getting there. Yeah, let's be honest with each other. Ferrari hasn't looked like a team firing on all cylinders since 2007 when Kimi won the championship.
Right.
All those Alonso years, all the Vettel years, now the Leclerc years, they haven't been ripe with success. And if you factor in the massive changes at Ferrari with executives, managers, and more being fired, numerous team bosses, and even ownership of Ferrari, perhaps that's contributing to the lack of results as far as titles go. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I mean,
don't know.
I think if you just take out, like, if you did a bar chart, no, line graph, and you just took out the Schumacher years,
That's true.
Ferrari,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
great,
that's true.
not great. I just think, and as a team that's also had its ups and downs, I just think that it's like, I started watching in 2000, so I think, but the Schumacher years, the Schumacher years, they were the anomaly, not the other way around. Not
You'd take out the
not
whole
Vettel
bell in the
years.
bell curve, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
So
kind of
it
would.
kind of skews everything, but
Yeah, it kind of does. So Leclerc, despite the lack of performance, says he's still interested in winning the title with Ferrari, telling Autosport in an interview. Here's what he said, quote, "Of course, I think every day has..." Oh, now let me try that again in English. "Of course, I think every driver has considered their different options once they get the possibility. But I have a huge love of Ferrari, and my first target, my first dream is to become a world champion with Ferrari more than anything else. So if there's a slight opportunity for it to happen, I will have no doubt about pushing to stay here at least," end quote.
until somebody better comes along, and then I'm out.
There's a space that
Yeah.
you could very easily fill in after the "at least."
Right. We could
At
totally.
least until McLaren hires me. At least until Aston Martin gives me more money.
I mean, right. The Rocky Horror Picture Show alternative lyrics or the alternative lines to that interview was huge, right? Like,
At
yeah,
least
somebody else comes home.
at least until my classical piano crossover music
Right, takes
sells a
off.
bajillion.
Right. Something.
I don't know.
There's so many ways that could have ended.
Yeah, that could have. Yeah.
But
So
of course, I
anyway.
mean, I think that's what makes Ferrari is Ferrari. I mean, I think that's what makes it all the more amazing that if you took out the Schumacher years, but they're Ferrari, right?
Take out the Schumacher years.
It's a shitbox.
Yeah. Oh,
But we
you
also
cannot
keep-
say that.
Oh, why not? It's a shitbox.
That's the best part. He goes, "It was a Ferrari." He goes, "Oh."
It's true. That is true. That is such
It is.
a great moment in acting right
It is.
there.
He channeled his inner Nicky Lauda there.
Perfect.
Get it down.
And but yeah, so I think that they're Ferrari. They're, I think for a long time I felt the same way, and I think the zeitgeist felt the same way about Williams, but we finally let go of that, right? But I think it still holds on for Ferrari, that it's like,
true.
I know their last 10 years haven't been great, but they're Ferrari. Maybe this will be the year that they do it, right? Like,
yeah, it's a good parallel with Williams, because you got Alex Albon saying this week that Williams would have eaten an arm off to consider at the beginning of the year if they thought they'd be in seventh in the championship. So
I know that. I mean,
that's how far that's gone, right?
Yeah, that James Vowles guy might know what he's doing.
Yeah, there's no doubt he does. He's a sharp cookie, that James Vowles.
Yeah.
He is. Well, look, at the risk of sounding like I'm not the Ferrari fan that I claim to be.
You're just a realist. It's
am.
like your own family. Like, I think that you can be harsh. You're there. You're at the table.
It is. Right. There's times when you and we have brothers, and you can admit, well, they're kind of being jerkish.
Just kind of, but yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, right. So I don't want to sound like I'm running around claiming to be a Ferrari fan and act like I'm not, but I do think Charles is right with respect to getting competitive enough this year to try and be best of the rest. And here's what he said. He said, quote, "I think the realistic target, at least the one we want to fix ourselves, is to be the strongest team after Red Bull and to close the gap to Red Bull. Then for 2024, there are no doubts that in everybody's mind, the target is to be back on top fighting Red Bull. I believe realistically, and this is only my opinion, that before the end of the year, we won't be able to catch Red Bull, but the target will be at least to be in front of McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. This will be our target," end quote.
Yes.
Is that doable? I think it is, as long as Ferrari continues their development, right?
And as long as they get Carlos Sainz as Charles Leclerc's race strategist, then yes, that is possible.
Yeah, right. So,
I think of course it's possible. Again, I was mocking the fact that we're like, but it's Ferrari, right? Because it's Ferrari. Like, They had. Come on. I know people listening to this can't, but like it's all right there. Just
It
put that
is.
last puzzle piece in there and send it home. Like,
I
I,
know.
come on, like
You
sheer
got
willpower.
Fred.
Can't you do it?
What do you want? You got Fred.
That's right.
You
Fred.
just got rid of Laurent Mackey's, and you got
Yeah.
Fred.
So, I mean, maybe Fred's their Obi-Wan Kenobi. So
Maybe.
I think that's always the thing. I think that's why hope reigns eternal for Ferrari, because on paper they should have so many championships more than they do. And I don't know,
Yeah, that's for sure.
like
Help me, Freddie Wan Kenobi.
exactly. You are our
Yeah.
only hope,
Yeah.
So, but that is the
Yeah,
goal for sure for Ferrari
it
to
is.
just get as close as they can to Red Bull by the
Yeah,
end
they
of the
need to be
season.
best of the rest. I mean, that's where everybody kind of expected they would start out with, given the start of the season. Then they had all the tire trouble and the chassis chewing the tires off the back of the car. Hopefully they fix that. Now, hopefully they can shoot for best of the rest. The question might be, in regards to Charles, if it weren't Ferrari, uh, if it wasn't Ferrari, you have to watch the movie Rush about Niki Lauda and James Hunt.
Yeah, or just
So,
that clip. That's all
or
you
just that
need.
clip. You have to watch that.
That's great.
It's great. Um, in regards to Leclerc, if it wasn't Ferrari, who would be a better fit? One can imagine Alonso retiring at the end of 2024. So that might be an option for 2025, right? Because Leclerc's contract ends in 2024. Alonso does. Mercedes, Mercedes would be a different matter, because if they do a deal with Lewis, I most likely would imagine. Well, it would be a 2-year deal or more with Lewis. I think Lewis isn't the
Right.
kind of chump to do a 1-year deal unless that's what he wants, right?
Right.
That is not how Lewis rolls. So Lewis, if he's going to do anything, I think Lewis would do a 2-year extension, not a 1-year.
I agree.
Also, this leaves Red Bull, which would make sense as Checo's deal is over at the same time as Leclerc's. Now, I'll get back to that when we talk about Red Bull later and why I think it could make sense. One might suggest that going to Red Bull would be bad for Charles or Max or the team, given the likelihood of friction between the two drivers. But I think at some point, Red Bull will need to put a little pressure on Max to keep things frosty in case his threats of leaving materialize. They need another top flight driver if he decides to go sport car racing,
And it also might motivate him.
It could.
Right? I mean, he definitely seems like, his dad was definitely that kind of guy, but he's definitely like the Michael Jordan, like the more you challenge me, the stronger I will be, and I will be here until I beat you, right? Like
Yeah,
he definitely
Jordan,
has that kind
Larry
of like,
Bird, same way.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Definitely has
Yeah.
that like, yeah, go ahead, challenge me. That only makes me stronger. So
Yeah.
maybe Leclerc is what he needs, because then that would make him stronger.
It would. Yeah, and like I said, I'll talk more about that in a minute when we get to a Red Bull. But anyway, that in my mind that could make sense. On paper, you would look at it and say, "Oh, no way with Max there. No way the team's going to favor Max and Charles." I don't know, but we'll table that because we'll come back to that. All right.
I'll put a pin in it.
So there you go. No talk about his contract. However, he absolutely says, look, he wants to win the title for Ferrari. And if they can make some progress, certainly he'll push to stay. So there you have that.
Right.
No talk in that article about one Carlos Sainz Jr.
Oh, I am Carlos. I am your race strategist now.
Right.
He's box.
Should we do Plan B?
No, it cannot be, Ricky.
No.
How about Plan D? Unless you want Plan F or Plan G. You tell me.
It's an interesting thing about Carlos. Let us know what you guys think, because when you talk about silly season and people potentially moving here, there, that, blah, 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 They said, "Oh well, Lando, Ferrari reached out to Lewis, and Ferrari reached out to Lando, and blah blah blah." The foregone conclusion is just replace Carlos,
Oh,
and
right.
that's interesting. And I'm not taking anything away from Charles, but when you think of Carlos, has he done that bad to warrant replacing him? If you could get Lando Lewis or George or whatever, I mean, is Carlos? Maybe in my mind, I have a much higher opinion of Carlos than what the rest of the world does. But they just seem like he's just, yeah, I mean, he's in that seat. But yeah, as soon as we can find another driver, he's out of there.
I think that no, I think Carlos is rated high, and I don't think that's just you and me. But you only have two options,
You
right?
do.
So,
And you're going to
right,
keep Charles.
right. So then you have to like kind of like, well, there's that other guy at our team. Mm, even
Yeah, but
though
I would
I
argue that
wouldn't.
I agree, Grace. I agree with you. I think you're spot on. And I would just argue that, if we're keeping on score, I think Charles has had a series of unforced errors as
Oh,
much as Carlos has.
for sure.
You
I think
know?
he's had more yeah, single car accidents than Carlos. And the team has the data that we don't have, right? They
Sure.
they can say that was Leclerc's fault. That was our fault, right? Now,
Yeah,
whether or
yeah,
not
yeah.
they own that mistake, that's a whole like we all
It's
work for
Ferrari.
companies, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a whole different ball of wax, right? A
Ooh,
horse of a different color.
yeah.
If they admit
Yeah.
to themselves
No.
where the problem lies, but they actually know that answer of whose fault this
Right.
is. But I just don't think I mean, I do not view Carlos Sainz, and I don't think anybody does. Is it's like, oh, we just have him because his dad owns the team, right? Like that's not Carlos Sainz's narrative.
I know what that was a shot at.
I want it now! What's the matter with those twats down there?
Yeah, I know. I don't think Ferrari, and it's just my opinion, I don't think Ferrari has any reason to be changing their drivers
No.
at this point. The car is the issue. Both of them
Yes.
are putting in performances on par with the car. I think
And there's
Charles, some of his unforced errors, he's just trying to make something happen wherein the car just
right,
physically has no interest.
right.
Carlos, maybe there's some unforced errors there that are driving errors. Maybe you could argue Carlos isn't as fast as Charles. I wouldn't argue against that. But in the end of the day, the car is not there. So the issue isn't really drivers. If you got Lewis and put him in Carlos's seat, Lando put him in Carlos's seat, I don't know that they're going to do any better in that
Mhm.
car.
Plus, you're gonna have a year or two of getting them up to speed.
Yeah, you would.
So why would you do that? You have two drivers that are doing the best they can in this
Right.
shit box of a car that you gave them. Why would you then
Right.
bring on two other people that now have to learn how to deal with this car that you've given them, right? So I just don't see where bringing in that's I mean that's almost never a good idea.
It's
But for
besides,
Ferrari, that's surely not a good idea.
yeah, well, if it's a good idea, they won't do it. But
Well, then
yeah,
maybe they'll keep them. But it's kind of like firing the coach. Like
yeah,
sometimes the drivers or the team principal is just, the person that shoulders that burden and it isn't
well, I've
necessarily
been
their
saying that
fault.
about Haas for 3 years now.
Oh, well, yes,
You
that
know,
is yes.
I mean,
it
no
should be
offense to
Gunther.
anyone, but your problem isn't Nico
No,
or Kevin.
it's the Steiner.
Yeah, it's not turning around. And you say, yeah, but they're on a shoestring budget, and Williams isn't.
Right.
Williams is not.
Yeah.
They're not owned by VC money. And you get James Vowles, and he has turned that whole thing around
That's right.
this year. So I'm not saying Williams are winning races, but it is a marked difference from being dead last to currently running seventh.
Absolutely. Like I mean, whoa, like that is
Yeah.
not the only marker of a success, right?
Right,
Like
right.
that's true in any sport, right?
Yeah,
Like so
yeah.
yeah, you can look at wins and losses, but that only is telling you a very small part of the team's story, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Same thing here. I mean, it's even more so in Formula One, but yeah, like Williams, it has to this season for them has just been amazing.
It's amazing.
And I think that winning races, especially again in Formula One, is never going to be what you look at as a marker of greatness. because
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
always
if
going to
you-
be dominated by one team.
Yeah, and if you consider, you say, well, Haas is working on a limited budget. Well, so is Williams. I mean, Williams,
Yeah.
we talked about it last week. Williams is over there. They don't have an autoclave. Their chassis is made out of a mud paste they had to make, and then they crumbled up, river reeds and fashioned and put the mud on. I mean, they're working on antiquated equipment. They still have an old drill press over there. They're
dumpster diving at Red Bull to try to
They
get
are.
some effed over materials, right?
Yeah, hey, there's a half a wing over here. It's got carbon fiber. Can we use it? Absolutely.
Yeah, melt it down. Let's remake
Melt
it into
it
something
down.
else.
Yeah.
I don't know that you melt down carbon fiber, but I just treat it like it's steel. Whatever. We'll just melt it down.
Yeah, what do they know? They don't have the tools to melt anything. They're having a big bonfire. Just hold that over the bonfire.
So if you're a Haas, you don't say that part out loud, but they should be like looking over the wall, like what is Williams doing and why aren't we having that kind of success? Not.
Well, I don't know if they are, because there's a lot of hardworking men and women at the Haas team, and I respect the heck out of them.
Yeah.
But if I'm Gene, I'm sitting at home thinking, how the hell did they get James Vowles to come into this team that's on life support, and now they're running 7th and they're beating us like a rug at a springtime cleaning?
Correct.
I mean, what the hell? You
Right.
know? So, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Wait, have we used that meme too many times now? Is that how Gene ends the call? Ugh.
Right. She tells Gunther, he calls him up, and it's kind of like, the awkward conversation. And Gene says,
It's a shitbox.
And Gene says, oh, you can't say that. So, that would be great.
I'm sorry. I'm really gonna. We're only like what 20 minutes into this. I'm going to try not to make references, but that
We've
is
beaten
just
this dead horse. Although in this podcast, I need to find that little clip on YouTube and put it in with this podcast so people know.
Oh my gosh! But that's how I want Gene to end that phone call, right? Like, why aren't you doing what Williams says?
That'd be great. What else we got to talk about? Let's talk about our old friend Valtteri, since he's over here in the U.S.
Yeah.
We talked about him briefly last week when he was at the helm of a ship somewhere.
Yeah.
He's over here. I have not seen any butt pics from him as he's wading in the streams of the Rocky Mountains. So I'm waiting for those. But anyway.
I think the best reason for those pictures to exist is so that somebody can buy them for charity for Lewis, right? Like that was the greatest. Like, Lewis, look what I got you.
See, Valtteri should have made those NFTs.
Yes.
And then sold those, right?
Missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity right there.
I'll trade you some Valtteri Bottas butt shots for some, apes covering their eyes. Okay, sure.
Yeah. Somebody did send me a picture of Lewis wearing this black outfit with these blue and pink and yellow lines all over it. And honestly, Grace, it looked like the carpet in the lobby of an AMC movie theater from 1989.
I know exactly the carpet. I haven't seen that outfit, but I know exactly
what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly
black and pink.
Like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh
that's exactly what he looked
futuristic.
like. Yeah, sort of spacey.
Yeah, spacey, futuristic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Valtteri Bottas in the Germans.
Tara, who knows?
Tara, Leclerc, and the Germans. 9, Deutschland. One part of silly season that I do find interesting is the question of Alfa Romeo, or let's call them Sauber Audi, because that's what they're eventually going to become in 2026, right?
Right.
Done calling them Alfa Romeo because it never was an Alfa Romeo. That is a sponsor on the side of the car. It's a Sauber.
Yeah.
It's a Sauber Audi. The question for me is...
that makes him a Saudi. That wasn't going to work.
Oh, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work.
That's
all right,
a whole
Sauber
different
Audi.
connotation.
Yeah. I'm just trying to make it into one word. That wasn't going to work.
All right.
All right, sorry.
So, the question for me is, will the team keep Valtteri Bottas into the Audi era? The Finn has an option to stay into 2024 as he signed a 2+1 year deal back in 2022. Valtteri says he thinks staying is a good idea.
Of course, right?
Who knew?
Right. Duh.
It's like you and I going into our boss and going, I know you're going through layoffs and stuff, but I got to be honest
I
with
think
you.
it's stay.
I think me staying is a really good idea.
Right. That's right.
I've thought about it a lot.
And I'm going to stay.
He thinks it's a good idea. Here's what he said, quote,
Okay.
"The more I think about it, yes. For me, it's an interesting era for the team. When you're focused on the here and now, you don't want to sometimes think too far ahead. But then if I really think about it and the long-term plan, then it would make sense. And for me, it would be really motivating. It'd be really motivating to be part of it. Let's see. Is it Let's see. It is still a while away. I'm sure eventually we will have some discussions, but not yet." End quote.
So, as opposed to what? Like, it'll be really motivating if I stay at the team. It'll be less motivating if I'm not at the team. Of course, it'll be more motivating
Yeah.
if you stay.
If I was at any other team, it would be less motivating. So don't employ me
Right.
because I won't be motivated
No.
over at Williams.
Right. Hint, hint.
Yeah. Mick Schumacher's got his eye on that ride. Poor Logan.
Mick.
So, well, look, I've said before that I wonder what Audi's impending takeover means for today's current performance, capital investment, and crucially, the development expenditures for the next 3 years. Now, two years, given that this season has pretty much ran. So, you and I talked about this when they finally announced that they were going to come in and buy a controlling interest in Sauber. And we thought, gosh, what are they going to do between now and 2026? They're going to be really busy working on their own engine, of course.
Right.
We're looking at chassis development and all those things. And, it's not like the men and women in Stuttgart don't know what the hell they're doing. They do. But what are they? I pondered how much money are they really going to throw into this program for the next 3 years, trying to develop a car for a competing car company sponsorship, right? And Alfa Romeo. I don't know. Just seems kind of foggy to me. If I was Audi, I don't know. Yeah, I bought it and it's my new thing and I'm excited about it. But, keeping it just kind of going,
Right.
would be kind of my call.
Yes.
But I don't know. Is the team in a sort of holding pattern, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yes.
As Audi gets its sea legs and noodles around in the back of the garage and HQ during the next 2 seasons to learn the ropes.
Yeah, they're rookies themselves, right?
Yeah,
if you think of it that way, they've got to kind of figure it out.
You can come in as Audi and you can say, well, by golly, we've won Le Mans multiple times. We dominated.
Congratulations, right.
And Formula One paddock would say, well, that's cool and that's impressive, but we don't give a tinker's damn because this is Formula One.
Right.
Right. And you got to cut your teeth like every other team, right?
Right.
But here's what Valtteri says. He says, no, that's not the case. They're not in a holding pattern. Here's what he said about it. He said, looking from the outside, it could look that way, that people are just waiting for Audi to come and so on. But it's not the case. Everybody is flat out. Everyone is pushing. So we're not standing still. It's just that the field is now so competitive. And if you don't start the season quite there, then it's not easy to come back up. So we're pushing. We're not standing still, end quote. You believe that?
Yes.
I think they're working hard.
Yeah, I mean, they aren't standing still. So
Yes.
if the opposite of standing still is pushing hard, then yes, I think they're pushing. You have to. I mean, again, I just think of this as like if it was just you or I in our jobs and not that we work in Formula One, it's still like, even if you knew a new administration was coming in, I don't just like stop working or like,
Right.
I'm just going to keep things moving forward. No, you're always trying to make improvements. You're always trying to make things better, even if the writing is on the wall and somebody new's coming in. So I think that's absolutely true. What that actually works out to being, I don't know, maybe not much, but yeah, they're not just like their thumbs up their noses or something, waiting for things to happen.
I mean, I'll take his word for it. And it'll be interesting to see how this team performs once Audi is officially in charge in 2026. You would be forgiven for thinking that they will need time to gel and find performance, just as most teams do when they enter F1. Think Aston Martin, think
Right.
Red Bull, think Mercedes, right? They all took several years to finally get to a reasonable competitive level. Mercedes and Red Bull for sure. Look,
Right.
6, 7 years, whatever it was. Aston Martin's on its way. I wouldn't say that it's there yet. But if Audi take a lot of notes now, could they shortcut their steep learning curve? And if so, does does having a consistent Valtteri offer them something that two new drivers might not?
No, I like shaving a Valtteri was
But
a much
shaving
funnier
a Valtteri, shaving him off of payroll.
Off goes that mullet, right?
Yeah,
we're,
right.
We're shaving that guy.
Right. Go back to the Mercedes when he had the buzz cut.
Yeah, right? Like, yeah.
So
No, I would. Oh,
I don't know. What do you think? So this goes back, and you and I've talked to stick with the evil you know.
Right.
I would add that that's true in aggregate, and I would add to that in Valtteri you're not only getting the evil you know, and you're getting the guy that you know, and he knows the team, he knows operation, and all of that is very true. But the one thing I'll say about Valtteri is you're getting his consistency.
Exactly.
He's very consistent.
And his even temperament.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know,
yeah, he's not
solid
he doesn't get
feedback.
flustered.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I think in that sense, it's a very like Red Bull keeping David Coulthard or something like that.
Yeah,
or McLaren keeping Jenson Button, right? Like
exactly.
there's definitely something to be said for keeping the elder statesman. I think he's like 30, but yes, the elder statesman that is, Valtteri Bottas there, because at least you have a marker of consistency, and he is a very consistent driver. So yeah, I would.
Well, and he would know. And see, the more I thought about it, the more it made sense to me to keep Valtteri, because in my mind, I think Joe, unfortunately, it will either be a different team or toast. And that's a shame, because I think the young man's driving very well.
I do too. I think it'll be a shame if he's not on the grid next year.
I agree. He's doing really well, and I like Joe. But with Valtteri, you get this level of consistency. His pace consistency. And as Paul has said 1,000 times, that's what you need when you're trying to develop a car, is this consistency from your driver. Right. And so you get that from Valtteri. Plus, he will know what the old car felt like and what the new Audi chassis feels like, and where the differences are and what the changes are, and be helpful in that development. And he will also know what a championship winning car like Mercedes should feel like, right?
Right.
So I think the more I thought about this, I feel like Audi will want to come in, bring two German hotshots, and put them in, or a really high profile name or something, and fair play. But I think keeping Valtteri makes sense.
I think especially in Formula One, where even if you are the Michael Jordan of Formula One, that's not how it works, right? Like you're still going to have a rough time. You're still going to have a rookie year. You're just going to have some learning curve to get around. Formula One really, the lower feeder series just don't seem to prepare them for Formula One. Nobody just rolls into Formula One and is like, I'm the GOAT, I own this, right? So that's the other reason why, even if you do have the next Michael Schumacher, Max Verstappen, whoever you want to say.
Although Lewis kind of did that.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton. I mean, but I still think that's a risk. Even if you do feel you have the next Lewis Hamilton,
right?
The chances of them being successful in their first year is so low. Why would you do that to yourself? You're just shooting yourself in the foot in this sport.
It's like McLaren feeling about Oscar Piastri, right? He is the real deal.
Yeah. And
he's doing much better than a lot of other drivers that come out of F2 would do. Right. So he is a real deal, but you're right. If that was your guy and Lando wasn't there, you'd be a little nervous,
Right. And I think that's more so in this sport than any other sport, that you just really always have to have kind of like, again, the old hand who is 28 in your other seat next to the young guy who's,
Yeah.
19 or something, just because the sport it doesn't translate. There's nothing like Formula One, and
Yeah.
they're going to need that experience.
Yeah, they will. Let's see. Let's talk about Max and Red Bull.
Well, now we'll get to find out who listens to this podcast.
Yeah, we will. They'll get all lit up over this one. So the heading is Max and Red Bull bad for F1, and the whole Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton fan base cheers.
Max is just bad. I'm fine with that. I don't know. I mean, I'll let you go with the story, and I'll provide my input.
It was an interesting story. I was reading an article by Giles Richards. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Over at The Guardian. And it wasn't the typical heavy-handed sort of, quote, Red Bull and Max suck and their dominance is horrible and something has to change. F1's got to do something. This domination's got to stop. We want, anyone to win and blah, blah, blah. That whole trope, that's not what this article was. And I was happy to say, I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't. You normally hear that from Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton fans,
Yes.
who must have forgotten the previous 8 years of domination that they enjoyed and never complained once about domination.
Again, I still hate the Patriots. Tom Brady left, like 5 seasons ago. They're still the Patriots. I still don't like them. It's fine.
Yeah, right. But this was a different article. It posited that the domination is challenging for F1 in general, with viewership numbers going down. And this paragraph was, for me, kind of the crux of what F1 has to deliberate. And this is what that paragraph, and I'm quoting Giles Richards here from The Guardian. Dominicali has indicated there is no enthusiasm for artificially restraining Red Bull, certainly not in season at least. But he has spoken of shortening the periods of domination. Quote, F1 has, this is Dominicali,
Right.
F1 has been always a sport where there has been cycles where teams were very dominant and then some other came into the equation. Our objective should be to take the strategic approach to make sure that these cycles in the future will be shorter, end quote. And then Richards continues in his article. He says, this is no mere philosophical question. There is concern the new fans and viewers it has piled on, especially in the U.S. since the gripping 2021 title fight between Hamilton and Verstappen and the success of Drive Survive TV series, will be driven away in short order by an overwhelmingly predictable championship being repeatedly won at a canter by the 25-year-old, meaning Max Verstappen.
Okay.
How do you feel about that so far?
I feel like, Dominicali says a lot of things, and that yet they change nothing. I always think that's, if you don't like that Formula One is so car centric or car heavy versus the drivers, you can change that, right? If you don't like the way the points are divvied out, you can change that, right? Like all of these things that people complain about are changeable, and yet the FIA doesn't change them. Dominicali never offers a way we could change them. But of course, from his perspective, he would like more change. That's why I always joke about, like, I'd like to, if I had like graphical ability, I wish the current Stefano Dominicali would talk to like Ferrari Stefano Dominicali, because I'm sure they'd have very different perspectives on this, right? Of course that's what he's going to say, because it does hurt viewership to have dominance like this, especially when it's dominance and nobody else is going to break it. You know what I mean? Whether it's Ferrari or McLaren, or my dreams, Mercedes or Red Bull, it's that, like, not just their dominance, but that nobody else is gonna, like, why am I watching? Nobody else is gonna win. But that's how Formula One is, and so I'm sure you want to shorten it, but I don't want any. I don't know. They always make rules to hold back the top team, and we never like that. It's just like.
I get squeamish when we talk about hobbling teams for their
No, all right, that's what I mean. Nobody wants that. I want rules that are going to make my racing better, not just make Red Bull or Ferrari or, Mercedes less dominant.
And to your point,
that's not what I want.
The FIA and F1, they've done that before. They did it to Ferrari. they did to Red Bull in the past. And one might argue that the changes made in 2020 were to hobble the low rate cars like Mercedes. And this led to the 2021 shootout that made everyone apoplectic in Abu Dhabi. But at least people were entertained.
Well, unless it makes McLaren dominant, and then I'm like, never
Then
choose
you're
the
all
rules
for it.
again.
Exactly.
We're fine.
Yeah.
What's your problem? Stop complaining, people. McLaren's doing well.
If you consider that Red Bull have led 694 laps this year and all other teams combined have led 30,
Right.
then you might get the impression that this is becoming boring, right? If you take Red Bull out of the equation, if you just took them out of the championship and looked at the championship, as Richards points out in the article, what we would have had is 4 winners so far: Fernando Alonso, Leclerc, Hamilton, Lando Norris, with the 2 old rivals, Alonso and Hamilton, in a battle for the title.
I think that's the best part. Who doesn't want that?
Right. 4 teams, Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin, and McLaren, would be vying for wins with the advantage swinging between them on a race-by-race basis. All right?
Yep.
So, he's right. That's true. Although, that is the race I'm watching.
No, I mean, I think that's the point.
Not for the
right?
title, but I am watching that race because it is super exciting from second
Right.
down.
But I think that's always what I am critical of Formula One for, is that they never talk about anybody else, right?
know.
Like, I mean, again, this happens in other sports. So let's we don't talk about the Lakers. Let's talk about everybody else. Anyway, traditionally,
Yeah.
or let's not talk about the Patriots traditionally. Let's talk about all these other teams. I think but that requires some digging on your level as a fan, even in the current environment where that digging, you don't have to be very deep, right? It's like a YouTube search away to find that kind of information. But if you're only watching the broadcast, it can seem that way because they don't necessarily, the race feed doesn't show other battles and doesn't always show or highlight these other really great things that are going on. They just talk about Red Bull, and yes, then it is boring. But other sports have figured this out, and I don't know sometimes why Formula One hasn't figured that out.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I thought, okay, he makes a good point. I understand that, but that is the race I'm watching. I currently get a kick out of it, and I think the actual Sky Sports crew should make a much bigger deal out of second place on down, because that's where all the racing and the battling has really happened. And as much as, and I've said this in other podcasts, but as much as a lot of people want to say, oh, this battle between Max and Lewis, and blah, blah, blah. Lewis, they're not peers. Max is
not
from
at
the
all.
younger group, the Leclerc, the Russell, the Carlos Sainz, the Lando. That's Max's peer group. Lewis is Alonso.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. I think people have to think about it like when you're a teenager or when you're in grade school, like the difference between a 9th grader and an 11th grader is huge.
Huge.
But as an adult, the difference between me and you isn't that big because we're
Right.
adults.
Right.
Right. So you kind of have to view it as that, like the difference between a 9th grader and an 11th grader, not, I'm not 20. I was going to say I'm 20. Yeah, right. That's past. But, I'm my age and your age, and it doesn't really make a difference. Right.
Right.
So I think you're right that isn't where they sit. And age is so important in this sport. I mean, the fact that Alonso is 42 and is still racing, it's like,
Yeah. It's
I
great.
mean, Michael, when did Michael retire? Like
41, 40,
42?
43, something.
Yeah.
40, yeah, in there, early 40s.
Yeah, and Vettel retired. So I just think that's what makes it interesting is that, the racing days are more behind Alonso than in front of Alonso. So
Yeah.
we're only going to get another year or two just because, that's would be crazy. I can't imagine
Right.
45 racing in Formula One. So
But I'm loving the Alonso Hamilton.
I do.
matchup.
I think it's great. And
awesome.
I love like old man Alonso just cracking jokes. He's just
Yeah,
here for
yeah.
the sarcastic jokes that he always made, but now he's the old guy. So it's great.
Yeah, he is. Well, Richards also argues that, and this is where the article got kind of interesting. He argues that unlike now, Mercedes had the Nico versus Hamilton drama.
True.
Red Bull had the Vettel versus Weber drama.
Mhm.
And even McLaren, all the way back then, had the Senna versus Prost drama.
Right.
But that's lacking at Red Bull. There's, it's
It's all
one
Max.
thing. It's one thing to have complete and utter domination by Red Bull, or let's talk about Mercedes. It's one thing to have 8 years of domination by Mercedes, and I would argue the Valtteri Bottas years at Mercedes were absolute yawn fest of complete domination. But it wasn't when Nico was there,
Oh.
because Nico and Lewis were going at it hammer and tongs, right?
Right, but if you're a
And you
team,
never
that's
knew.
not that's
But
not what you want,
as a team,
though,
you don't
right?
want that. But for an entertainment value, it made it at least interesting to see which of two Mercedes drivers
Yes.
was going to make it, you know? And so at least there was a little bit of that excitement. Meanwhile, Mercedes is beating the brains out of the entire grid for 8 years,
Right.
So that's what made it palatable. Same for when Red Bull with Weber and Vettel. Same with Senna and Prost, those sort of things. It's been discussed about Perez, and to be fair, others before him who drove before him with Max. But Helmut Marko says it's best to have a clear fastest driver for intra-team harmony. And that may be, it may be true, but is it good for the sport? It's true.
Right.
I would like to see
Right.
Max have a challenge from a teammate. And that's why I think Leclerc, Norris, Russell, Alonso, or even Albon again might be fun to watch against
Ooh,
Max.
I think Albon again would be the
Yeah,
best, because
I do
Albon
too.
totally has so much to prove, right?
Yeah,
Like,
he's got an axe to grind.
absolutely. I think from just that perspective of like, what do I want to see in my dream world as a fan? Ooh, I want to see that,
Yeah.
because he is not going to be the Rubens Barrichello to Max Verstappen.
Right. Right. If there was anything, and that's why I said earlier about Red Bull and Leclerc, you have to agree that for a fan sitting at home, in entertainment value, that getting a driver that could craft an intra-team battle like the past domination eras, such as Senna versus Prost, Nico versus Lewis, would be more fun for people at home to watch. Now, as for me worrying about what DTS and new fans of F1 will think, I'm not sure I'm actually really concerned about that, to be honest with you.
No, because they're gonna
F1 may care immensely, but they've enjoyed my support for decades through all of the domination eras and the pedestrian races, and never was worried about it. And yet they're the ones who, through DTS, didn't really right size the expectations. So now they're in this unenviable position of trying to replicate the DTS excitement they artificially created every race weekend, and that's not going to happen. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news to the new fans, but that is not going to happen. It doesn't happen in Formula One. It doesn't happen in any racing series, really. So,
or any sport.
yeah, really, it doesn't. So anyway, I like the article. Richards offered his final thought. And I thought this was a good final thought. And I tend to agree with him. He said, quote, F1's owners know it is a sport, but for financial reason, it also has to function as entertainment. How they navigate that fine line in regard to Red Bull and Verstappen is their most pressing and delicate issue. Everyone wants to see a better fight, but breaking this butterfly on a wheel would potentially do irreparable damage to the sport's integrity, end quote. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely spot on. And I said it when they did that with Ferrari. I didn't like it when they did it at Mercedes. And even Toto, to this day, I'm sure he's lobbying for changes. But publicly, he's saying, look, yeah, they're dominating everything. And, it is what it is. And all of us are just going to have to do better. We got to do better.
I think, but some of that, like what I say out loud and what I don't say out loud,
Yeah,
is
that's
part
his
of the
outside
joy,
voice.
right? Like, yeah.
That's not his inside. His inside voice is, oh man, we got to change these rules so Red Bull's DRS isn't so dominant and blah, blah, blah.
Or I always love the like Red Bull to Ferrari. I'm just asking for a friend. If I did this, with my fuel sensor.
Would that
Do you think
contravene
you'd let
the
that happen?
regulations? Yeah.
Would that be okay?
Would that be all right?
I was just wondering.
Not
Jonathan
that
and I,
we've done it, but
we were just hanging out,
thinking about doing it.
having a beer, and we thought, what if we did
Yeah.
this? What do you think?
Yeah.
I love that part of Formula One. That's sort of like
Yeah.
I ask it, but indirectly, because
Yeah, it's great.
that's how the circus works.
I love it. All right, let's get to some Albon's cats, because that's always fun. Oh, yes. Yes, Albon's cats.
Yes.
Hit me with some Albon's cats, Grace.
Okay, so you may have remembered last week when I was talking about the MotoGP race,
Oh, I do.
the British Grand Prix, right?
Uh-huh.
And everybody had said, "Oh, wait till you watch the Moto3 race." Well, so in this past week, I've had time to watch the Moto3 race, and people were not wrong. That race was crazy. I mean, why? I often, and I have surely in 800, whatever, 890 episodes or whatever we're on here, have told this story, but always, if you can only go to one day of a race weekend, go on Saturday. Watch the like lower series.
Mhm.
Those guys are always crazy because they are not thinking about a marathon, right? Like that's part of what makes the premier season series boring is because they're like, I'm gonna let you pass because I have 10 more races. No. In the lower series, they're like, no, every race matters, and they race as if every race is the last race, and it's great. So the Moto3 race did not disappoint. So if you have the opportunity to go back and watch the Moto3 at the British Grand Prix, please watch it. Now, on top of that, we're watching the race. Now, I don't know anybody's names. I don't know who any of these people are. And I'm like, did they just say that guy's name is Alonso? So the guy so he's from Colombia, first time a Colombian's ever won, and his name is David Alonso. And I'm like, so I have a whole new Alonso to root for. This is like the greatest. Like, how has nobody ever? I feel like let down. Nobody's ever pointed this out to me. Now, I also don't watch Moto3, which I should be watching clearly, but
Well, sure.
there's a whole nother Alonso out there for me to be rooting for. So, Fernando, when you retire, because of course, David Alonso is like, I'm sure like 12.
Yeah, right.
I have many years of still supporting Alonso,
Yeah,
even
right.
when Fernando retires. So I was very excited for that. But at first, I'm just like, what? Like, sometimes I'm like, do I have Formula One on the brain? Did I really hear that? Who knew? Who knew there was another Alonso
There's
out
another
there?
Alonso.
So there you go.
That's
So watch
great.
Moto3.
All right, watch
Support
Moto3.
another Alonso.
There you go. You ready for some no shit headlines?
Yeah.
All right, first one up. Here it goes. Quote, I was Lewis Hamilton's F1 understudy, earning more than £1.5 million a year. Now I'm making drastic change studying at Harvard.
What? This is like some sort of weird, like, who am I puzzle.
Yeah, it's like what's the show? Who is where you get an answer or he gives you the answer. Alex Trebek, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Jeopardy.
Jeopardy, yeah.
Yes.
It's like Jeopardy. So who is this? Who are we talking about? I used to be Lewis Hamilton's understudy, making £1.5 million a year. Now I'm making drastic change studying at Harvard.
Aunt Davidson? I have no idea.
Huh, that's a good choice. Nick DeVries.
Oh,
He's going to Harvard. That Nick
well,
DeVries.
I guess.
You know what he's studying? He's taking
What?
a course on negotiation.
Oh, get at wah wah. Oh,
I
man.
know. I was kind of like, oh, Nick. Come
That's-
on, man. Just call me. I'll help you through that. Come on.
I guess that's a good use of your half
It's a
a
cry
season,
for help.
right?
It's a cry for help.
I just like that. That's like, well, I didn't make it in Formula One, but I do have a Formula E championship, and I will have a degree from Harvard. So,
But it's
I
kind of
don't
like,
know.
well, I go take a class on negotiating. I mean, I don't know what I
Oh,
got
my-
screwed. It's like, Nick, you've got managers. You've got, oh, come on, man.
that's
You're a
their
good guy.
job.
Yeah, it's their job. Let's see. Next one. Oh, you'll like this one, Grace. This one is all fun for the lads. Quote, I sell X-rated OnlyFans content to fund my rally car dream. I didn't expect to receive as much attention as I did.
don't even know what to do with that information.
That's just wrong on so many levels. I don't understand. Did you
First of all-
possibly? How did you not know that like showing your breast was gonna get attention? What? Come on, man.
Wow.
You should have just done gaming or something. I don't know.
I think the best is if that was Sebastian Loeb. Like, that's where I want this comment to come from. Like, somebody that just like, really? Okay.
It's a female driver, but I can't remember her name.
I don't know, but
I'm not
well,
even
you
gonna.
know.
I'm not even gonna say her name because a bunch of you go over to OnlyFans look for her. I'm not gonna do that.
I mean, that's the point of the site
I know.
is to get attention.
It is. It's all about that. Yeah.
Like, that's how you make revenue, right? Like,
Yeah. The whole thing. It's just like
that's their
It's
whole
like-
model. Like, I don't
I
understand.
don't understand it either. Right? It defies logic. It's like
That's like,
I was bizarre. I was born, but gosh, I didn't know I'd get this much air.
I posted stuff on eBay. I posted stuff on eBay, and then people bought it and they expected me to send it to
Send
them.
it to them. What are they crazy? Yeah, I don't understand.
I don't know. I think I'm just gonna in my mind, Sebastian Loeb said that because I think that is the funniest way. The funniest.
I wish her the
person to have
best.
said that.
Good.
I don't.
Good
that's a
luck, young
weird
lady.
statement.
Wish you the best. Let's see. Next one up. Quote, inside Shakira's Ibiza villa, where she snuck Lewis Hamilton in at night for 3 secret meetings. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, my.
I don't think those are called meetings.
Meetings.
Unless maybe that's what I would have told my mom when I was 14.
Right.
We're having a meeting. I don't think those were meetings. You're adults. It's okay.
You and Flip having a meeting tonight, Grace?
Right.
Yeah. No?
Oh
yeah.
my
It's
gosh.
like, oh, my
That's
gosh.
a great euphemism, though. I have a meeting. I don't
have
know.
a meeting. My wife and I have
Yeah.
a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
I
kids
don't
are out
know.
tonight. We have a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're having a meeting. No,
Yeah,
it's okay.
That's what
And
I thought was funny.
You're Shakira. You're Shakira and Lewis Hamilton. Who are you sneaking?
Yeah, really. I mean, and who are you offending if they know that you're hanging out? Who cares?
Live your best lives.
Yeah,
as
I don't
said
care.
before.
I don't care. Lewis, have fun. Go for it.
Do it.
As a young man
Literally.
that was born and raised on a couch in Stevenage, go for it, Tiger. Spend that money. Hang out with Shakira. What do I care?
I mean, if
don't.
Shakira calls me for a meeting, I'm like, all right. I mean, what
I
are you
wouldn't
gonna-
go.
No.
No,
All right.
I'm not into that kind of thing. That
Okay.
whole OnlyFans thing and stuff. I'm just not.
I don't know. I'm sure her villa has very nice views and a lovely food
I'm
service.
sure it does. Now, if Lewis is there, I'm there.
Okay.
I would go if Lewis is there.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
I just think,
Because
I
Lewis and
just-
I could sit around and talk about racing. I could show him how to play
Yeah.
guitar. That'd be good.
yeah, that's right. He'd be into that. He could give you
yeah.
some fashion tips.
He could. He could. My dad hat, my cargo shorts,
That's right. Your polo shirt.
I'm a fashion collision. I'm a fossil.
It'd
you
be
know?
great.
In
I
2
would love that.
years, 2 years, they're going to find me embedded in amber, and then they're going to take the DNA out and start an island with a bunch of old people like me.
No, I think this is like a Project Runway. Lewis Hamilton is going to dress you, and I
Yeah.
want to see that. That would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be funny?
That would be great. I'd love it.
Oh, it'd be hilarious.
I'm here for that.
He'd probably put me in some sort of zoot suit or something.
I don't know.
That'd be good. And then I could teach him how to play guitar.
Yes,
You know,
that's the exchange. I think that's fair.
It's a fair exchange.
Yeah.
Let's see. Finally, quote, Max Verstappen is brutally told he will never be as good as F1's greatest drivers despite racing towards a 3rd straight world championship triumph.
Who told him that?
I don't know. It's some
Oh,
dude. It's some
okay.
dude that I saw this original tweet. It's some other podcast. I don't even know what podcast it is. So I'm not
Yeah.
glossing over that, guys. I'm not marginalizing your podcast. I'm sure it's wonderful. I just can't remember it. But it was some guy. But what was interesting is I saw, and it kind of went out, and there was a big tweet storm, and kind of people were sending and tweeting it a lot, but I read this one that got ratioed to hell. It was like who the hell is so-and-so? I can't remember the guy's name who said this, but everyone was like, well, who the hell is that? And he's like, well, he's on this podcast. And I go, what the hell is that? I mean, I don't know.
Okay, so first of all, Max Verstappen's dad is Jos Verstappen. I think he's grown up being brutally told everything.
Yes.
Right? Like, I don't even know what brutally told from anybody. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's a good point. If you don't know this, let me assure you one thing. Max's childhood was not like Nico Rosberg's. Okay.
no.
Max's child, this is a dad who's very supportive. I'm not knocking Jos.
Yeah.
But he's a pretty hard man. And, you know, he's been in trouble for roughing up a girlfriend. Max lost a race because he did something that Jos didn't
Made him
like.
walk home.
And they stopped halfway home. He at a gas station. They kicked him out of the car and never came back and got him. I mean, this is the kind of, I mean, you wonder why Max is the way he is. I mean, those kind of things scar a kid, you know?
Jos's parenting style is much more of the like, I caught the kid smoking, so I made him smoke the whole pack.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
you know, like
yeah. I mean, this is like Sparta, you know? They throw the kid down in a pit and a spear. Good luck.
So, I mean, that's why it's like, yeah, and it has shaped him, but I just don't know what the idea of somebody brutally told Max something
He's
like
not.
you didn't.
It's a BS headline.
His dad has beat you to that.
Basically, he was saying he's never won races in an inferior car like Schumacher did, and like blah 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 blah. And I was like, actually, he kind of did.
Yeah, he
did well at Toro Rosso. He did well at Red Bull.
Yeah.
When the Red Bull wasn't the dominant car.
I may not like Max Verstappen, but that's shade, right?
Yeah,
that's just not facts, right?
It's
like
not.
I mean,
not.
Again,
and he doesn't mention Lewis Hamilton at all in there.
Right.
Like, well, Lewis hasn't won a bunch of races in an inferior car either, Tiger.
But this is you know, I don't know. It's not even original.
It's not. It's not. They were saying this back in Schumacher when he was driving. They were saying this. You know, he's got the best car.
But guess what? This isn't IROC. Yeah. We don't all run in the same car, and you get to find out who's the fastest, right? Like,
this is such a dog-eared BS argument.
Yeah, I just think you're not even original. Like, try harder.
I know,
and it's not true. I mean,
it's
just not true.
It's not true.
And you're not going to be brutal. No, none of us can be brutal towards Max. Maybe Alex Albon, or maybe, I don't know, Valtteri Bottas. I don't know. I'm just picking names we've talked about, right? But you know, when your dad is Jos Verstappen, it's a different game.
Yeah, you're cut from a different cloth.
Yeah.
Let's do mailbag.
You've got mail.
Kevin asks this. Hi, everyone at TPF. I was thinking, while fast forwarding through the idiot grid walk for the millionth time, why can't F1 start a race like practically every other auto race does? Send the cars out from the pits, go around the track to the grid, and start the race. Why do they still do this whole outdated deal with hauling all the cars' life support gear out onto the track and changing the tires again? We have a song and dance. No one on the teams wants to chat with anyone. The drivers stand around trying to ignore the reporters. Then everything has to get hauled back off the track and finally get the race started. It just seems ridiculous. Thanks, I feel better now. Thanks for the great show. Keep it up.
Dear Kevin, take your logic and remember this is Formula One and send it somewhere else.
Right.
You're 100% right. Like, why do we wheel all this crap out? I mean, even if we were beyond the like awkward pit walk or the celebrities, even if it was just the cars, the drivers, and all the crap that comes with it, right? Why don't you just keep all the crap in the pit lanes and then just send them around and put them on the starting grid? Duh, right? But
so there's. Yeah,
I love to do that.
I love the cut of his jib, and I agree with him, and it's funny, and I love it. There are legit reasons for doing all that. I don't know about the grid walk and interviews and all that.
No, that's what I mean. Like, if we would just talk fundamentally about the car,
about the car. So when they're going out on the formation lap, they have a scrub set or something on in case they pick something up on the way to the formation. So when they get to the grid, they want fresh brand new clean tires on it. All right, so that's why they changed the tires for the start. Second thing is Formula One cars until recently, until the hybrids came out, did not have a starter.
That's true. That's very true. Right.
Right.
That's right.
So they didn't have a starter, and so they had to be manually started from the back.
Right.
Now you can start them with a hybrid now, but they prefer not to.
Right.
They don't have to, because they don't want to take any of the charge away from the hybrid. Right. And a long time ago, they go out and, check brakes, check suspension, check fuel and all that. But as the cars got more and more and more and more advanced, everything is controlled by computers. So what you'll see is the carts they roll out have computers, all the things they could possibly need and tools they could possibly need if they identify an issue with the car as it grids up, because there's still another 15 minutes before they start. So what they're doing there is doing a full check, running through all the engine settings, running through the clutch bite points, which they'll determine at the start of the actual formation lap. When they go out, they'll come back, and when they start off, that's why the formation lap before the race start, they'll set their clutch bite point. So they'll come out, but the team will have checked that. They'll have set it to where within a window it needs to be, and the driver has some input on that. So the reality of it is there's a lot of technical things that they're going through to ensure the car is going to start and it's set up properly. All the settings are correct. The engine, everything is set. The gearbox, everything is working well. All the temps are good. Oil, water, all the pressures are good. The electrics are good. You're generating, current to recharge batteries. The alternator, which, is like in an old car, like an alternator is creating current to charge the battery, right? But same there with KERS, everything is working well. So they do all that, and that's why they haul all that gear out there on the track to do all that. But you're right. If you just turned on the race and you were looking at it, you said, what the heck are they doing? Why are all those people running around with I just like watching of crap?
I just like watching people scurry. It's fun.
It is, yeah. So what are you doing? So good question though, Kevin.
You're right, but I like that. I like the idea of there's so many things about Formula. It's just like how there's 700 people that come over the pit wall to change tires. Do we need these 700 people? No. Clearly, many other racing series have shown that you can do it with 4 people. But will Formula One change it? No, because it's Formula One.
It's Formula One.
There was 70 people coming over the pit wall to change 4 tires.
Exactly right.
That's what we do.
All right. Well, that does it for this podcast. Hey, a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. We could not and would not do this without you. If you would like to be a Patreon supporter, you can be. All you have to do is go to our website, theparcferme.com. Scroll down on the right-hand side. You'll see where it says support us. You can do it by PayPal or Patreon, and you just click on that, and we'd be incredibly grateful. Oh, and a big shout out to Kevin, who emailed me and said, hey, Todd, could you make a T-shirt that had a small logo on the breast front left and a large logo on the back?
Oh, yeah.
And I said, yeah, I can make that. So I did. So I made that, put it up there. So if any of you want a particular layout, let me know. It's easy to do if you'd rather have a different layout of our logo shirt. But you can get our merch if you go to our website, scroll down on the right-hand side. You'll see a man and woman wearing our T-shirt. Click on that, and it'll go to our merch store. You can do that. Get a coffee mug with our logo on it. Who doesn't want a coffee mug with the TPF logo on it?
Get your Christmas shopping done early.
Exactly.
It's August. Hurry up. Buy everybody.
And you say, well, I don't know what it looks like on. Well, Grace wears our merch all the time. It looks great.
Except tonight, apparently.
Well, you got an Alpine. That's nice. But she wears it all the time. It looks great.
There you go.
It gives her that high pro glow.
Yes.
That's
so,
good.
I have the new stuff. I'll have to get the, small logo, big logo.
Small logo on the back, or big logo on the back, small on the front. Yeah. So anyway, check that out, folks. You can support us that way as well. And if you like the podcast, you can go over to your favorite podcast player and give us a good rating. Give us a love over there. Also, if you like the podcast, share it with people. Tell people
Yeah.
about it. That would be nice if you could do that. We'd be grateful for that as well. And we really do appreciate your support. And as always, we'll come back next week. We're going to talk about more F1 news because that's what we do. But until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camber, saying so long, Grace.
See you next week.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.